I want to go right now to Ron Chapman, a federal defense attorney and frequent guest on the debrief. Ron, as always, thanks for being with us. Let's talk about that breaking news we just reported. The judge rejecting Mark Meadows' request to move his criminal case out of Georgia, out of the state courts and into the federal courts. Your thoughts on that decision today?
Yeah, I just took a really quick look at that decision, and what it appears to be is a denial of Mark Meadows' request to prevent the arrest and booking and processing in the state. And what the federal judge essentially determined is that there is no statute or statutory support to stop and halt a state prosecution while you're seeking removal. I expect the federal court to take some time to figure out whether this case can be removed. That doesn't appear to be decided yet based on what I just quickly reviewed, but certainly he will be processed and still face charges right now in Fulton County.
If you are the former president, Donald Trump, we know that he has been playing the clock. He had 30 days in order to file to decide whether or not he wanted his case tried in federal court. But this initial ruling in the Mark Meadows case, what does that signal to the former president and whether or not he should pursue the same avenue?
Well, I see where you're going, and I think the Meadows case is really Donald Trump's trial balloon. I think literally. I think that he's waiting to see what happens. I think that he may still seek it later on, depending on the decision, but he doesn't want to make that move right now. I also think he has an interest in delaying this case as much as possible, so potentially even filing a late motion for removal to gum up the process may be part of the playbook. I think other defendants are talking and thinking about similar moves to make this 23 October trial date, this trial date that's sought, look a little bit more impossible as the case continues.
Ron, let's talk about that list, that grand jury information that was released today that was unsealed by the court. 39 individuals on that list, including Lindsey Graham, the sitting senator, and 2 former senators. Your thoughts on those who did not get indicted, even though that special grand jury said they thought they should?
Yeah, Del, this tells me a lot more about the grand jury process than it does about the guilt or innocence of those 39 individuals. You've heard the phrase, you can indict a ham sandwich. It's been said over and over again, and it really is true. Grand juries are run by prosecutors. The evidence is presented by prosecutors, and special grand juries, like in this case, are really the investigative bodies and arms of prosecutors. So it's not surprising to me that just about everybody Fani Willis wanted to go after was in the crosshairs of this grand jury, and there were votes for
So then, that
indicting
being said,
those
Ron,
individuals.
why didn't she indict them? Because she's being accused of playing politics, especially by the former president of the United States, who says this is a politically motivated witch hunt. If it were a witch hunt, wouldn't she have indicted Lindsey Graham and Michael Flynn? After all, it seems, according to the list, that 20 of the members of the special grand jury thought those 2 specifically should have been indicted.
And that is the excellent question. There would have been strategic decisions related to all of these 20 unindicted individuals. There's a few options here. Number one, some of them may have been cooperating with her, and she decided not to indict because she didn't need to get their cooperation. You may see them later on a witness stand. Number two, she may have thought that even though there was enough to indict, she didn't feel like she had enough evidence to prove to a jury beyond a reasonable doubt. Also, she's interested in a relatively quick trial here. So narrowing down this list of people to the most culpable individuals is a really good choice for a prosecutor. She alone gets to decide who she wants to charge for her own strategic reasons and those of the office, and it appears that she's making very careful decisions about those 19.
Ron, I want to get your take on what so many others have been saying, which is that the members or the people who are on that list, the other 21 names, they could still be indicted. Is that true?
It certainly is true. That's a process called a superseding indictment. She could go to the actual grand jury, not the special grand jury that we had here, and ask for a new indictment. But here's the impact of that. It frustrates her efforts. That would cause the speedy trial clock to get reset, meaning all of the defendants, if a new indictment was tried together with all of these other defendants, would essentially have their trial dates pushed further down the road, and the trial would be pushed further. I don't see her doing that unless there's somebody they really need that they didn't indict. But I think that we're going forward with the list we have right now, and she's going to try to make the plea deals that she can with those people and go to trial with a more limited subset of defendants.
Ron, if you were a defense attorney, would you be concerned that we might one day see Lindsey Graham and Michael Flynn coming in to testify against your client?
It's certainly possible. The question for me is whether or not Lindsey Graham has the type of information that could potentially lead to a conviction. I think for political reasons, I don't imagine we're going to see Lindsey Graham willingly getting on the stand. It's possible he could be subpoenaed and testify. It's a concern of mine. I would prepare for it, but I don't think that she's interested in political theater here. I think she wants a nice, clean trial and to get this over with as soon as possible.
Federal Defense Attorney Ronald Chapman, thanks for your time and also for your comments on the breaking news at this hour. She's running. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says she is running again, saying now more than ever, San Francisco values need to be advanced in Congress. Nancy Pelosi was first elected to the House in 1987. She's been elected Speaker twice. Many wondered if she would run again after her husband was brutally attacked inside their San Francisco home. Nancy Pelosi is 83. No real progress as negotiations between the United Auto Workers Union and the big three U.S. automakers continues at this hour. Yesterday, Ford and GM submitted their counter offers to the UAW. Those offers, though, were quickly rejected. Stellantis has yet to provide its counter. The union wants a 40% pay raise. They also want an end to a two-tier wage system for some of their workers and a 32-hour work week. GM countered with a 10% pay hike.
We want this offer and the dialogue that follows with our UAW bargaining committee to send a clear signal that the goal remains the same, an agreement that moves us all forward.
I'm confident that we have what it takes to win and win together. And that's why we need a fair contract.
GM is confident, they say, that a deal can be reached. That current deal right now between the union and the big three ends at midnight on September 14th. A strike could begin the next day. And those big three automakers appear to be ready as well. The SEC reporting that Ford secured a $4 billion line of credit for economic certainty. Brett Cass with Scripps News Detroit talked to Ford employees about their concerns.